Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 p.m. We're going to start the meeting of the Planning and Historical Committee, Zoning and Historical Committee of the Council. And I think that we probably should start, if the committee doesn't mind, we should start with the item that involves the public schools that we had requested at the last meeting that they come back to us. And following on the conversation I have with you all, we sent a letter to the school system asking them to look into preserving the existing structure. I appreciate those of you that co-signed the letter. So at this point, I'd like to invite the representative from the school system to come and address the committee to answer the letter we sent. I think this is an important issue, and I think it will be good for us to give them a chance to address the concerns. Any issue with that? Anybody had any problem with that? No? Okay. All right, you're on.
Thank you, Councilman Bedney. David Proffitt, Executive Director, Maintenance, Facilities Maintenance and Construction for Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. We received the letter, and as Mr. North has passed that around to each and every one of you, we have a building on that site that, because of the design, we think needs to be removed. The building cannot stay where it is because of the parking garage that's going under the building. The building itself is not conducive to an educational facility in any way. It is not on a historic landmark registry. And we think that the 88 Hermitage location is the appropriate location for the school. It's centrally located. I believe all of you have what we call the heat map on an 8.5 by 11 that shows, in essence, where all of the students live in Davidson County that attend that school. This location is approximately 1 mile away from the geographic center of all of those students. It's adjacent to and relatively convenient to the highway system. And we just think that that property is the proper location for the school in central Nashville. It's a showpiece for Music City, USA. And we think that that's where an arts school should be located. I don't know if you all went to Nashville School for the Arts commencement last night with their high school graduation, but if you had, you would have seen one of the greatest performances of a group of high school students that would rival many of the professional groups that we have here in town. And I truly think that that in and of itself begins to tell the story of why this building should be located at 88 Hermitage Avenue. I think it's imperative. There have been discussions about having it located on other properties. I understand that. We fully respect those opinions. We have even looked at those ourselves. But we feel that this is the location for the new Nashville School for the Arts. Councilman, that's all I have. I guess if there's any specific questions, I'm more than happy to entertain them.
Thank you very much for your answer. So I guess your answer is that you are not going to follow up on our request to preserve the building? Not
the building.
Okay.
Portions of the building into the design, Councilman, for sure, at an expense. The building is in disrepair now, which we are not at this point able to completely renovate, obviously. We don't know when the final construction dollars will be provided to us, and so it will sit. So, you know, the other alternative, of course, is to sell the building to let the state take care of it. We don't want that to happen. We think we have a better use for it than what could happen there if the state were to take it over. So we're also going to save various pieces and parts within the building to utilize in the new facility. And so, but the actual structure itself there's just practically, And when I say practically, from a practicality standpoint, there's no way to save that building and introduce it into a new modern educational facility. It was only an educational facility in and of itself for approximately 13 years, and of its 64, 65 years, I believe it is. Its last use was a state police post, as many of you may remember. So we think the history of what was there can be preserved, but not by means of saving a building at the cost of a modern facility and modern arts facility.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Did I miss anything?
Councilmember Hager.
What are y'all gonna do with the 40 acres?
I'm sorry.
I asked the last time, what are you gonna do with the 40 acres sitting over there at TPS?
The 40 acres at TPS, my goal, quite frankly, is to save the building and leave it there, because there are many times that we have to relocate kids for our modernizations. For example, if you're familiar with McMurray Middle School, we left the old Tusculum Elementary School for relocation of students. And I have often thought that we need a place, if there's a fire in one of our schools right now and shuts it down, have no place to take the kids other than call up churches and so on and so forth. So what we would like to do is that we would like to maintain the use of that school, and we would like to use it either for district facilities of some nature, training. It could be used for professional development programs, could be held there. There's a lot of uses that we have for our facilities that we could use it for.
How many buildings are on that 40 acres now?
Approximately 7 that we have control of.
And when were they built?
In the school, I believe, itself was built in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, early 70s. The other buildings were built the 20s, 30s, I believe it was. Cole Auditorium is a relatively old building. I don't know the exact dates. I'd be glad to get them for you, but.
Are the buildings still functional, all of them?
The Cole Auditorium could be. The 2 dormitories are not. The print shop is being used by the Tools for Schools folks who build some of our furniture. The infirmary, we had intended to have an alternative school there, but that group that runs that backed out, so it's sitting. We're still, in fact, we're getting ready to talk to the American Builders and Contractors, ABC group, about renovating that building as part of their learning exercises and that sort of thing.
And how much open land do you have?
We have some open land in the back, approximately, I'm going to guess 10 to 15 acres, something like that. In the very back, it's low-lying. It's not in a floodplain, but it is in a stream, one of the old dead streams that the Corps may not allow us to build on.
Was there any, and how many acres is this at Armitage Avenue? 4?
5.5, plus we are going to be able to use the MDHA property next to it. I think there'd be a total of 9 acres there.
Okay. Why was there not any discussion about building just a new building on that 40 acres?
There was. We just don't think that that's the location for the school.
Is that the only reason?
Primarily.
No other question.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. So I'm going to read the legislation, and then we can do it on the book. I mean, I just started ahead of myself. So Bill BL 2019-1606 by O'Connell, Bircher, and Bedne. It authorizes Metro government to purchase property from the state of Tennessee located at 88 Hermitage Avenue. And I need a motion to approve. Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion? And now we are going to continue with the discussion. The next person on the queue is Councilmember Berkeley Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask, I mean, you talk about doing renovations out at the campus where they currently are. I mean, there are other historic buildings that y'all have chosen to renovate. I mean, I'm thinking of Weston Middle School, which is a lovely building that y'all have, and Hume Fogg and other schools. I mean, do y'all have sort of a criteria where this is a school that's worthy of conservation, and this one, just from an architectural standpoint, is
Sure.
not necessarily, or just from a maintenance standpoint?
In this particular case, yes, if it were, when we talk about classical revival, as some might think this building, you need to look at West End Middle School as a prime example of what true colonial revival architecture is. If you go out and look at this building, you see that. You don't see that. It's not there. And I would just, as a professional architect, this is me saying it, not a member of MNPS. I would say that regardless. Won't get into talking about being an adjunct professor and all of that sort of stuff, and a history professor at U of or TA at UK, but I don't believe that it qualifies, in my personal opinion, professional opinion, as a historic piece of architecture. If it had, it might be different, and we might be looking at a different site. Very simply put, Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the pleasure of attending the graduation last night.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's. I don't know how to feel yet about my empty nest.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you can give me some
daughter
guidance.
graduated, right? Congrats.
And thank you for Councilman Elrod's wife for confirming my daughter's degree. Really appreciate that. Little mixed here, because I understand both arguments, okay? We all know we've already purchased the building, so Chair, just so I can have some clarification for the folks back at home, because I got a lot of questions yesterday after graduation. What's going on with our school? What do we need to do? The money was allocated in a previous budget. Is that correct, Mr. Jameson or Mr. Betty?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the money can only be used to purchase and to build. It's not like it can be used to give money to the teachers.
That is correct. This is a capital outlay for the
Gotcha.
purchase of the property.
And I understand that, just so that the people at home understand that. So it can only be used for capital expenditures, correct?
For this purchase, correct.
Okay, which does not include salaries.
That is correct.
Okay, now that we got the folks back at home straight, okay? Now, one thing I will let everybody know, that at Hermitage's location, and if it's our will, it's a better location because it's more centralized. It's very hard for a lot of those students. There's no bus system. And even though we all are for improving transit, to get, let's say hypothetically, that we were able to put the school in the old Hillwood building, it's very hard to get a bus out towards that part of West Nashville. I know because I went to school in Hillwood, and I live in East Nashville. And so one of the heaviest things, it's hard, because the kids will have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's still not a bus that goes out there by 7:30. The bus that goes out there towards Hillwood, and also I know my little brother graduated from Hillwood 2 years ago, too. So it's very hard to get a bus from East Nashville or from North Nashville to get out there towards Hillwood by 7:30. And then the bus system is going to, we're having some issues with the budget with the bus system right now, too. And so this is a better location because it's very difficult, because right now the school, NSA, does not have buses, period. They use the city bus. And the city bus from certain parts of town where the majority of these kids live can't get out there to Hillwood by 7:30. And in the building, I mean, even when other kids went to NSA, the building was in disrepair years ago, but now the building's really falling apart. And you're talking to a dad that had to use duct tape and other stuff to build sets for plays and for dances and stuff like that. I mean, we need a safer building, and I'm sure there's other buildings that we need in other metro schools, but there is a real need. And, my daughter's not going to enjoy the benefit of this because she graduated last night, but being a parent and being in that school very often, I can attest to the condition of that school. It needs replacing, and I do not want or recommend anybody pressing any kind of prosecution against this great body or this great city, but we're looking at the liability if some of these repairs aren't done, because God forbid if something falls and then Larry Hager gets $1 million for suing the city. But just whatever you decide, I don't take it personal, but this really needs to get done, guys. And these kids last night, there was a poet laureate that's in the group, And then you had the valedictorian that's going on to a full ride in some really, really fancy school in California. And then you had a guy had an acting contract fresh out of high school from this. And then it was more than graduation. It was a performance last night. And these children come from some of the roughest areas. And our valedictorian, I remember she was in 5th grade with my daughter, IT Cresswell. Family did not speak English. And they came here legally. And she now, from not being able to speak English in the 5th grade to being the valedictorian. And then it was so great, the salutatorian was in the same situation. And then the music teacher said, you will never be able to play a piano like that. She flew her grandmother all the way from Mexico to come up here and to watch her play that piano, that grand performance. I mean, this is truly, because that's why they had it in the Grand Ole Opry. They could have sold tickets to the show. And I'm sorry to be rambling, but those kids are that talented and that awesome. The best of the best, musically, dance, art, and we really need to look at this and get this moving. Thank you. Appreciate you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Sharon Hurt.
Thank you, Chair. I just need some clarification. Who is actually selling the property?
Oh, probably us, yeah.
Excuse me?
I'm trying to figure out who should answer the question. I think,
The state of Tennessee,
And who's buying the property?
Metro Public Schools, MNPS.
So are they getting a good deal in the purchase of this property?
David, did you want to address that?
The property appraised for $11,800,000, and we're purchasing it for $11,300,000. That's a $500,000 difference. It has been said that the property could potentially even go more for that if it were sold to a developer.
So they are basically being kind to Metro in order to put this property into good use for something that would benefit the Nashville students at the Nashville School of the Arts.
And I would just add the state has been gracious in granting us extensions on the option to purchase. I believe it's at least twice now, 3 times?
It may be more than that.
Okay. So they've been willing to work with us over an extended period of time to actually sell this property to MNPS.
Okay. And who owns the property at TPS?
The Metro government, on behalf of Metro Schools, purchased the acreage out there that currently has approximately 7 to 9 buildings on it. And so there's actually, evidently, it shows up on Plan Viewer anyway, a deeded parcel there that is assigned to schools.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make clarification because we've been getting emails telling us not to sell the property, and we are not selling the property. The property belongs to the state.
that's right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Withers.
Just wanted to clarify that. What the correspondence I've received, some of it is not asking us not to sell the property. We have had other properties that they've asked us not to sell. It's actually asking us not to purchase it without the assurance that the historic structures would be saved. And I appreciate Mr. Prophet and all the work that's been done. I appreciate the additional information that was provided. I think that's very helpful. I guess for me, if we're looking at a couple of parcels that would go from 5 acres about up to 9 acres, I'm having a difficult time, and I appreciate the verbal explanations I've been given, but I'm having a difficult time visualizing how I'm going to explain to constituents that we could have a parcel assemblage of that size and not be able to work around that building somehow. And so something that would be perhaps beneficial to me and to the public is to see if building designs have already been completed, and if a site plan is there, and that information may already be available. But I just think that will be a question that we will receive pushback on from folks wanting to know, is it possible to, why is it not possible to work around that structure or to reuse it for some purpose? And again, I appreciate the description I've been given of that, but having a site plan I think would be very helpful. I almost think very similarly to the way that you know, when we think about the cherry tree incident that happened a little while back, I think had a site plan of that stage been a little bit more readily available to the public and information, people could visualize why those trees needed to be removed. And that's kind of what I'm thinking of here. Number one is maybe a little bit more information, a little bit more crystallized for the public to be able to understand. In the Casey homes with Envision Casey, I balance a whole lot of competing goods and have to choose between two different things that are good, and one is more of a good than the other sometimes. But I know that one of the things that we have benefited from and working with community advocates recently is that as we roll out new phases of Envision Casey, that we include site plans that show how that building will work around existing trees. I just feel like that kind of visual information is very helpful to people in understanding what's going on. The other piece of it too is that we do have some letters here. I know we have a lot of parents from Nashville School of the Arts. Your chart was very helpful. I see that 44 Stratford cluster students who live in a Stratford zone attend the school, and of course those would either be in Council District 6 or 7. There's no question that it's going to benefit a lot of kids. I just wonder if the public discussion that we have had emphasizes that either or, and so that the school community understands that we are having to make a very, very difficult decision between preserving a building, whether or not that building is itself is architecturally a masterpiece or whatnot. It does play it was a location where an important and painful part of our history took place, and a lot of people don't necessarily want to see that history erased unless we absolutely have to. So those are my two requests. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable voting for this yet today. I would want to see maybe a site plan, if that's already available, or building designs to help me explain to my constituents that need to remove the structure, and also just a little bit more robust discussion, if it hasn't already taken place, about how well informed the community that's going to benefit from the school has participated in that discussion about the inability to preserve the structure.
Are you asking for a deferral?
I personally would ask, yeah. I mean, that's what I would say is, like, I would really like to see a site plan or some more information, or
So
have
you're
that
asking
available
for
to
a
the public.
deferral and for them to come back with the information. Can you spell out what information you'd like to see?
I would like to see a site plan that shows how the building is utilizing the existing acreage.
The option, if I may, Councilman,
Yeah, sure.
the option on this property runs out June 1st. Secondly, we don't typically, as a rule, design buildings before we own the sites, and that's has been purposeful for not designing the building at this point. There's been a conceptual visual study of the building, of what it might be. So when you're talking about a smaller site, you're obviously talking about going up rather than out. We like to keep preferably our buildings on one floor, maximum 2 for, if we have a wide open site. But if you want to go around the country and look at some of the more modern facilities, such as the new school in New York City, it's 12, 13 stories tall. I'm not insinuating that this one would be that tall, but it is a practicality that it would go up. Secondly, underneath that property, like I said, where that building sits. And let me back up just a moment. I appreciate the history there, but understand, too, that it was temporary until the final building could be built in Donaldson, and then the services that it performed moved with it. Now, going forward, the building, underneath that building is going to be a garage. We can't save the building if there's a garage that's literally carved out of the hill. We have, as I said, a conceptual elevation of the building, but we have no plans yet. The scope of the building has not been finalized yet. In fact, we have a scope, but we're going to have to revisit it because it's 3 years old. Things have changed. Learning environments have changed. Way to teach have changed.
I'm
Technologies
sorry
and
to
so on and so
interrupt
forth.
you, but
Sorry.
I know we have a long meeting, so you don't have site plans yet.
I do not have a complete
Okay.
site plan, no.
Okay. And you have a deadline June 1st.
June 1st, that
All
is
right.
correct, sir.
So what do you want to do, council member?
I think I will probably, unfortunately, have to vote no.
All right. Thank you,
But,
sir.
yeah.
Council member Johnson, Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. do appreciate all the data, and I understand why this location will be suitable location. My number one disappointment is because I'm hearing lots of my constituent and history lover to preserve this historical building. Yes, it is not registered yet, but it is what I understand is eligible for National Historic Registry. So. With this great architect in this city, and anything can be built around it with preservation in mind. It can be preserved one historical building in addition to modern building. I think opportunity is endless, especially the site plan is not finalized. So I really would like to request MNPS to revisit and what would be the appropriate, new design, especially conceptual plan is not done yet. So considering the timeline, I will not be oppose this, nor defy it. But as of right now, if I don't get any commitment, I have no choice but abstain it.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kobe-Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the council representative for the current NSA site, so here's the situation I think I hear we're saying, and Mr. Prophet could correct me if I'm wrong. So we have basically like 10 days, 11 days to pass the resolution to buy the site, okay, to purchase the site from the state. So if we don't do that, I think what I'm hearing is we potentially lose the opportunity to purchase the site. Is that correct?
That's correct. And what I've been told, the state most likely will not extend it any longer.
Right. And so if the state doesn't sell to us, the state's open to sell to whoever they want, I mean, is my assumption, correct?
That is correct, sir.
So I think the vote really is, do you feel better if this land at 88 Hermitage is in our hands or in a developer's hands? That's your vote tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question about the rehabilitation. Do you know how much it's going to cost to rehab that property in order to get it ready for Nashville School of the Arts? How much is the whole deal going to cost?
The plan that we have right now, I've not estimated that. I think it is going to be around $125 million total for a new school. Right now, to give you an example, the new Hillwood High School replacement facility is going to be about $119 million total when it's finished.
So if you were to repair TPS, how much would that cost to put it in any shape? Is it repairable for the same purpose?
Let me answer that in a general way, if I may. There's probably no building that can't be repaired. There's probably no building that cannot be retrofitted. The problem is that building is not conducive to an arts facility, an arts magnet, if you will. It doesn't have the spaces. We would have to tear down part of the building and rebuild it back in order to make it work. The auditorium is only half the size of what it needs to be for a facility like that. We would be, I would gather to say, in probably at least 75 to 80% of the cost of the new building. Keep in mind that when we renovate buildings that we currently owned, when the cost to build a new building exceeds 75% of the cost of renovating the building, it no longer becomes a renovated building, it's a new project. Right. So therefore, in this particular case, if we're going to exceed 75% of the new building to go for a new one under those guidelines that we try to keep, which are in custody, in fact, we think they're better than some cities in the United States who use a 65% rule. So to answer your question, we certainly could renovate that building. At what cost and to what detriment, if you will, to the program use of the building, I can't say.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So there's nobody else on the queue, so let me just break away from my chair position and make a comment, statement here. I struggle with this. I hear what Councilmember Sledge said. If we don't do it, then somebody else may. But then how can we morally or ethically tell other people, other developers, that they have to preserve their buildings if we will demolish a building we own as a city? So for me, that's really the important question we need to ask ourselves. Do we want to be a partner and accomplice on erasing something that it has to do with our history and that we own. So that's just my reason why I'm going to vote against this. Reluctantly, because we need capacity, we need more classrooms. That's a perfect site for a new school, School of the Arts. I will be delighted to see it happen over there. But we gave them an opportunity to come back with some commitment, and they couldn't do it, so now I cannot vote for it. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of this legislation, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Please raise your hand if you are in favor first.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, please raise your hand if you are in opposition.
1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 4, 4 against.
What is it?
5, 4, 4 against.
It passes. Thank you for a very good debate. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. All right, we are going to go into the consent agenda. RS 2019-1743 by Bethany O'Connell and Hager. It approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Public Works for I-440 traffic operational deployment of Bluetooth Spectra power over Ethernet data collection devices. Next item, RS 2019-1744 by O'Connell, Bedney, and others approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Public Works for I-440 from I-40 to I-24. Resolution RS 2019-1745 by O'Connell and Bedney. It approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Public Works for various intersection improvements at SR6 and Church Street. BL 2019-1617 by O'Connell and Bedney. It authorizes Metro government to accept new sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and to relocate one fire hydrant assembly for properties located at 838B and 838B Gold Street. BL 2019-1618 by O'Connell and Bedney. It authorizes Millennium Music Row LLC to install, construct, and maintain aerial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 70 Music Square West. Well, this one has an amendment. BL 2019-1620 by O'Connell and Bedney. It abandons an existing easement rights for property located at Dr. Walter S. Davis Boulevard. BL 2019-1559 by Hastings. It changes 0.2 acres from RS5 to R6 zoning for a property located at 616 Bester Avenue. BL 2019-1570 by Hager. It changes 35.89 acres from R8 to RS7.5 zoning for various properties located along Old Hickory Boulevard from 6th Street to Butler's Lane. BL 2019-1571 by Hager. It applies 39.74 acres of a contextual overlay district for various properties located along Old Hickory Boulevard from 6th Street to Butler's. BL 2019-1572 by Councilmember Bircher. It amends 478 acres of plan unit development for properties located at 301 South Perimeter Park Drive and 347 Luna Drive. BL 2019-1573 by Bircher. It changes 4.78 acres from CS to R10 to OG zoning for property located at 347 Luna Drive and 301 South Perimeter Park Drive. BL 2019-1574 by Hall and Haywood. It cancels 4.04 acres of a planned unit development for property located at 4237 Little Marrowbone Road. BL 2019-1575 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 3.14 acres from IWD to SP zoning for a property located at 900, 904, 910A, 914, and 916 8th Avenue South, and 901, 909, 911, 913, 915, 917, 919, 921, 923, and 925 Bass Street to permit a mixed-use development. BL 2019-1578 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 2.89 acres from IR to SP zoning for a property located at 520 Hagan Street and 640 Merritt Avenue to permit a mixed-use development. BL 2019-1579 by Councilmember Scott Davis. It changes 1.59 acres from MULA to MUGA zoning for property located at 1404 Dickerson Pike. BL 2019-1580 by Councilmember Kendall. There is a letter to approve. It changes 0.31 acres from CS to MULA zoning for a property located at 900 Buchanan Street. BL 2019-1589 by Councilmember Swope. It applies 812.34 acres of a corridor design overlay district to various property located along Nolensville Pike southward from Zoo Road to the south side of Burkett Road. BL 2019-1582 by Councilmember Hastings. Approved with conditions, disapproved without all conditions by the Planning Commission. It changes 8.72 acres from RS 7.5 to SP zoning for properties located at West Trinity Lane, west of Brownlow Street to permit 375 multi-family residential units. BL 2019-1583 by Councilmember Glover. We have a letter to approve. It changes 2.78 acres from RS 15 to SP zoning for a property located at 3049 Earhart Road to permit a single-family residential structure and a billboard. BL 2019-1585 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 0.30 acres from R6 to OR 20-A zoning for property located at 747 and 749 Alloway Street. BL 2019-1586 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 0.74 acres from IWD to MUGA zoning for property located at 1009 8th Avenue South. BL 2019-1587 by Councilmember Scott Davis. It changes 4.54 acres from CS to RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1330, 1326 Dickerson Pike, Elmhurst Pike, and 136, 138 Elmhurst Pike to permit a maximum of 221 multi-family residential units. BL 2019-1588 by Councilmember Hastings. It changes 1.16 acres from OR 20 and RS 7.5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1609 and 1613 Hampton Street, 2414 and 2416 Brickchurch Pike and Hampton Street, north of Avondale Circle to permit 37 multifamily residential units. BL 2019-1589 by Councilmember Hastings. It changes 0.85 acres from RS 7.5 to SP zoning for property located at 1600, 1602, 1606, and 1616 Hampton Street and 1200 Avondale Circle to permit 10 multifamily residential units. BL 2019-1590 by Councilmember Hastings. It changes 2.9 acres from RS 7.5 and CL to SP zoning for property located at 1241 North Avondale Circle, 2422 Brickchurch Pike to permit 25 multi-family residential units. BL 2019-1592 by Councilmember Scott Davis. It changes 0.84 acres from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 343, 345, 347 Edwin Street. BL 2019-1593 by Councilmember Kendall. There is a letter to approve. It changes 0.30 acres from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 2416 Albion Street. BL 2019-1594 by Councilmember Scott Davis and Anthony Davis. It expands 212.07 acres of the urban design overlay for various properties located east of Ellington Parkway. BL 2019-1595 by Councilmember Hastings. It changes 0.63 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for property located at 1533 Log Road and 1605 Seminary Street to permit L8 multi-family residential units. BL 2019-1596 by Councilmember Scott Davis. It changes 1.63 acres from R6A to RM15-A zoning for various properties located along the south side of Kingston Street. Last item is the one we started with, that it was already approved. So do I have a motion to approve, or should I pull any item from the agenda? We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Oppose? Thank you very much. Let's go to the ones that are not on consent. BL 2019-1721 by Bircher, Mina Johnson, and Kathleen Murphy. It requires the Metro Planning Commission and the Metro Planning Department to adopt a subdivision regulation to require community meetings prior to approval of concept plans or prior to approval of final plats when no concept plan is required. And who wants to speak on this one? Councilor Mina Johnson.
Yes, I'd like to move a substitute, and I believe our planning table, Councilor Jameson can speak about what the substitute is.
Council Lady, not to disagree, but do you happen to know if the lead sponsor, Council Lady Vircher, wished that substitute to go forward, or did she wish a deferral?
I have not had a chance to get in touch with our lead sponsor.
Sorry, there is a letter requesting a deferral.
A deferral? Okay.
Yes. Sorry. Thank
If
you.
the lead sponsor is deferring, I move to defer our meeting.
Okay. So we have a motion to defer one meeting. Does she need to move the substitute or not?
No.
Okay. So we have a motion to defer one meeting. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is BL 2019-1619 by O'Connell and Bedne. It authorizes Nashville Prop Co. to install, construct, and maintain aerial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 306 Gate Street. And I'm going to move, because it's me and Councilmember O'Connell, and I'm going to move for approval and then submit a proposed amendment. So I have a second. Do I move the amendment now?
Yes, but I don't have an amendment in the packet. If you, that's a mistake.
All right, so I'm being told that that's a typo. So all in favor of the legislation without any amendments, please say aye. Oppose? Thank you. How about these ones? Is that a typo as well?
I don't have an amendment on 1621 or 1622.
All right, I'm going to request your permission to add this to the consent agenda. I'm going to read them now. BL 2019-1621 by O'Connell and Bedne. I can't even say my last name. It abandons alley number 126 right of way. BL 2019-1622 by O'Connell and Bedne. It abandons a portion of Manor Avenue right of way. Do I have a motion to add those to the consent agenda? Council Lady Mina Johnson.
There was an amendment for this one. This one is a typo.
Yeah.
Seems like 2018-1444 need to be replaced with BL 2018-1444.
That's correct.
Which one is that?
1622 and 16.
So can I move amendment?
Please do.
Yes, I move amendment.
On 1622?
1621.
On 1621. Okay, so we are going to just do that one first. We are going over 1621, and we have a motion to approve and a motion to move the amendment. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do I have a motion to approve it as amended?
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Next item is BL 2019-1622. It abandons a portion of Manor Avenue right-of-way. Do I have a motion to approve?
That one also has an amendment. 1622 does have an amendment.
Okay, we have an amendment. I need, so I'm going to move the amendment as a, we have a motion to approve the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And now I'm moving to approve the legislation as amended. All in favor say aye. All right. Yes, ma'am. The mic is still on.
Thank you. Just a question. Could we go back to Bill 2019-1619? I think there's an amendment to insert certificate of liability insurance. I think that's the amendment, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to make it sure we include that if indeed that's the amendment.
Yeah, that's on page 67 of their materials.
1619?
Yeah, it has an amendment.
Yes, 2019-1619. The amendment is to add the certificate of liability. So if we can go back to that and then,
Can you please make a motion to
yes,
that?
I would like to go back to the Bill 2019-1619, and I would like to move amendment.
Does anybody object? No? Okay, go ahead.
So I would like to move the bill as amended.
All right, do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. Oppose? Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. The next item that is not on consent is BL 2019-1537 by Councilmember Scott Davis. It changes 0.18 acres from RS5 to R6 zoning for the property located at 327 Gateway Avenue. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have a clarification. I know we got budget coming up, but we'll still have third reading on the first meeting in June, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'd like to defer for one meeting, please.
I have a motion to defer for one meeting. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Oppose? All right. BL 2019-1569 by Councilmember Scott Davis. It changes 2.3 acres from RS5 to RM20 zoning for a property located at 1804 and 1806 Lishi Avenue. Councilmember Davis.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I believe I want to do a few things. First, there's a substitute that I'd like to move.
All right. Do you want to explain your substitute, please?
All right, basically the substitute gets rid of short-term rentals. And also, it's a mandatory referral back to the Planning Commission, which will appear on the June 27th docket. So I would like to defer to the first meeting in July, if that's possible.
So you want us to support the substitute and
Yeah,
then
move the substitute.
and then refer?
Back to the Planning Commission.
Okay, so we have a motion. Councilmember Wieters.
I greatly appreciate my colleague at least working on that step for the short-term rentals. There are additional concerns, I guess, about the site as it pertains to a site plan. A lot of the public comment that we heard from neighbors during the public hearing pertain to building location and proximity of driveways, and I think a lot of those are legitimate concerns. So there's that component, which I want to be sure is able to be discussed by the planning department. And then secondarily, there was a lot of discussion from supporters of the application based upon affordable housing criteria, and I don't know if any of those have been are planned to be included in the plan in terms of specifics for affordability of housing. Constructing more housing generally at a macro level, if you include enough units across the county, supply definitely, increasing supply generally does help to lower pricing. However, simply building a lot of housing units on a parcel, even removing the short-term rental piece, does not in and of itself contribute directly to affordable housing in a particular neighborhood. So I think that was something that I'm intrigued by, and I was just wondering if the plan that's going to come back before the Planning Commission also addresses housing affordability.
How we're looking at this, and it is not in stone yet, but we're working on it. Now, we know we can't do anything directly because the state will be mad, but there are some deed restriction options. There's an option on the table for, for a percentage of the units to people to be giving $50,000 down, for 5 to 7 of the units. There's several things we're in discussion about for that, but we're just trying to find a legal way to do it so we don't get sued. And Mendez has volunteered to help with the deed restriction part, which he did with the Oakwood project, which we passed, which is leasing 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $900 a month, come one, come all. So that's in the works. But I think the most critical thing right now is, now that we have the short-term rentals off that, and there is some design stuff they're sending back, for the commission to relook at. And so I think I want to renew my motion to move my substitute and refer back to the Planning Commission, sir.
The commission or the committee?
I'm the commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have
June 27th.
a motion by Councilmember Davis. Council Lady Murphy.
So my concern here is even with the site plan, or I guess it doesn't have a site plan yet, there may be a site plan. The overall concern that I heard from the neighbors who spoke at the public hearing, and my personal concerns as somebody who is familiar with the area, is that this is just a very large increase in density from the rest of the character of the neighborhood. So I don't really think that the SP and taking out short-term rentals does anything to relieve my concerns and some of the concerns of neighbors who have emailed and called us and things like that. So I would like to, I don't remember if the councilman is on the committee is he on planning to make the motion? So I'd like to make the motion that he refer it back to the commission, but this needs to come back to the planning committee. And I also do have a problem, and I think that in the next term, we need to discuss in our rules, making a change in our rules, that if you're changing to an SP on third reading, it go back through public hearing or something. We need to work on that in the rules committee. But I would like to make the motion that this go back to the planning commission and then it comes back to the planning committee before having third reading.
So you're proposing an amendment to...
I don't he can't make an amendment if he's not on the committee, right, Mike?
Correct. We haven't moved the substitute yet, though.
So I will move the substitute to, or I guess instead of moving the substitute, I'll just refer this to the planning commission. What do you want me to do, Mike? What gets me to our objective?
First, I would have a separate and individual vote on the substitute, up or
Okay.
down.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the substitute. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Oppose? No. So.
Okay, then I move to send this back to the planning commission and then to the planning committee.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. You have any comments?
I do, but it can wait. I'm okay. I thought it automatically went back to committee. I would bring it back anyway, so I'm fine with that.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Okay, it passes. Thank you very much. Good conversation. Let me see if there is any other items.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment and answer I can't. All right.
Thanks. I think we're done.
I think everything else is done, everything else is on.
Yeah, we have a long agenda. So thank you, council member. I appreciate your patience. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.